I am currently on baby watch right now, so if you hear a little bit of interference in the background, it's just my baby monitor. The boys like to do this thing where we put them down for bed and then they like totally fake us out. And then they're up and up and up, and then we rock them, and then we put them down, and then some magical time hits and they're actually asleep for the night. So maybe it is that time. I don't know, but I'm keeping an ear out, so hopefully that's not too distracting. Maybe you can't even hear it at all. But anyway, the topic of this video is my like feeding situation with the boys. So the title says it all. I'm gonna tell you why I decided to stop breastfeeding my boys, and then why I decided to start again, because it's complex. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, stay tuned. But I'm really making this because I feel like I can't be alone in this type of a situation. It feels like a unique situation, but there's got to be somebody else out there going through the same thing and feeling the same like frustrations, whether it's the identical situation or something similar. Thought I would just put it out there in case somebody can relate to what I'm going through. Okay, so I've been struggling a little bit with breastfeeding the boys, and a little bit, that's actually an understatement. It's been a struggle since the very beginning. So not an ideal situation. I had my babies prematurely, and that led me to be an exclusive pumper for the first couple of months for them, because they weren't capable of eating and being the ones to bring my milk in. I had to rely on the pump. So that's fine. But my goal, my feeding goal, whenever people at the hospital would ask me, what are your goals for feeding your twins? I said that I want them to be exclusively breastfed, because I did. I'm a very determined somebody, and when I set my mind to something, I want to make it happen. And I felt like, if anyone can do it, I can do it. I am determined. I'll work hard. And I know it's going to be difficult, but I'm up for the challenge. And so I put forth a lot of effort in those early days to reap the benefits of it in the future. So I exclusively pumped to build my milk supply up. And if you breastfeed twins, or you're attempting to, or you pump for twins, you know the struggle of getting your milk supply up for 2 babies. It's hard enough for 1 baby, but for 2 is a whole method of how frequently you need a pump, and then your progression, like how to keep that supply up. And it's not as straightforward as when you have 1 child, which makes sense because it's 2. So I was like, I did all my research, met with lactation consultants, and I was doing everything I needed to do to establish that supply. And it was many, many hours at the pump, let me tell you, and many, many hours at the breast. I started breastfeeding them, and like I said, my ultimate goal was to exclusively breastfeed, because I wanted to get to the point where my supply was established, and I wanted my nice, big, strong, like 4-month-old babies who are capable of nursing through a nursing session without falling asleep. And I want that supply to be there so that when they are capable of doing it, they're not like disappointed and frustrated. So yeah, that was my whole point. And if I had to continue exclusively pumping, that's fine. But I really knew that my boys were becoming capable of breastfeeding. That was the path that I wanted to take. So many obstacles along the way, because even in the best of circumstances, it's a huge sacrifice to exclusively pump for twins. And you have no privacy. And if you ask for privacy, then you have no personal life. Like, you don't see people you usually see. You're chained to your pump. 2 hours goes by very fast. And the difference is when you're pumping, you look forward to seeing your pump every 2 hours. As opposed to if you're breastfeeding, you get your baby every 2 hours. And that's what you have to look forward to, that bonding time. And you don't get that when you're pumping. It's isolating and you feel very like, for me, I had so many emotions whenever I would pump. Something about, and the fact that I started pumping when I was in the NICU and my experience in the NICU pretty much revolved around pumping, something that happened to me. It's so weird how like your chemical makeup is that I like was instantly brought back to the NICU every single time I started pumping. Every single time. It's like this rush of memories and this huge association that I have with the NICU every time I would pump. Doesn't matter. That actually has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. So I don't know why I'm saying it. I'm just kind of putting it out there that it's extremely emotional. It's hard. It's taxing. I was willing to put forth the effort though. I wanted to make that sacrifice for my boys so we could have months to come of breastfeeding. And that didn't happen for us. So, life happened, and my son, one of my sons, he now has to go to many doctor's appointments. We have wound care nurse appointments, plastic surgery appointments, orthopedic surgery appointments, eye doctor appointments, pediatrician appointments, and physical therapy appointments, general surgery. He had hernia surgery. We had to be at the hospital for 24 hours, but like all of these appointments out, if you breastfeed, you know that your body is very smart and it's all supply and demand. So you have to keep up that schedule of pumping or breastfeeding or something every 2 to 3 hours to keep that supply up. And if you miss even one pumping session, not to mention multiple days, multiple consecutive hours, your supply goes down significantly. And so for my twins who needed this increasing demand of milk, my supply kept going down and down and down because despite my best efforts, I could not physically keep my supply up when I'm going out to these appointments. I would feel so stressed out. Like I can't even put into words how stressed out I would feel knowing that there was a doctor's appointment coming up, because I knew the whole appointments from beginning to end always take like 4 or 5 hours. And I'm not kidding. Like from getting them ready, getting them in the car, getting to the appointment. These appointments are downtown, so it's a little bit of a drive as opposed to the pediatrician right around the corner. They're downtown, so it's a whole drive there. The doctors are never on time, which is okay. If it was a different situation, wouldn't matter so much. But, I would say consistently, every single doctor's appointment we had, the doctors have been at least an hour late to every appointment. I'm not saying this to complain because I know that's how doctors' offices work. But for me, by the time I leave my house and I get downtown, I'm like filling back up, feeling very engorged and uncomfortable. And I need to pump, breastfeed, something. And I get down there so uncomfortable. And I just remember so clearly our orthopedic surgeon appointment. He was an hour and 45 minutes late. I was so uncomfortable. I had 2 crying babies. I tried to go into this room. They gave me a folding chair, and I'm there like holding both babies, trying to tandem feed them in a chair that had no arms. Just help me, Andrew. It was a very stressful situation. They're hungry. I didn't come prepared with my pumped breast milk, so that was on me. But either way, like if I gave them a bottle, I still needed something to happen. Like, so I'd either have to feed them both out in public and pump, or just feed them, like breastfeed them. So I wanted to breastfeed them because that was too much like work to have to pump out in public and feed them. It's a whole thing. And then, you know, this was all the time, all these multiple doctor's appointments. I would just feel so stressed and angsty. Like I would get home like, I need a pump. And then, you know, the boys are starving. They're frustrated, so frustrated they can't even nurse. And then I noticed my supply diminishing. You know, you'll see on my channel all these videos about how to increase your milk supply, blah, 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 blah. Well, my milk supply was decreasing because my circumstances were such that I was not capable of staying home every 2 hours and pumping or breastfeeding or whatever. And so my supply started to dip, and I would try really hard to bring it back up. And it was just this very emotional battle of being chained to the pump, trying to get my milk supply back up, being frustrated that it's not increasing. You know, I feel like these appointments sabotaged my breastfeeding experience. So I decided to start backing off at the point where I had my wisdom teeth removed. When I had my wisdom teeth removed, it was a whole thing. It was very horrible and traumatic. I'm not even going to go into that. It's not worth it. Would rather have a C-section than have this particular incident with my teeth. It was not the typical wisdom tooth surgery. Well, my whole recovery was about 2.5 weeks from that, and I was not able to give them my breast milk because I was on Vicodin. So I had to pump and dump, and I at that point had to give them formula because I didn't have enough frozen breast milk. But I kept my milk supply up through opiate withdrawal. I was going through having opiate withdrawal symptoms, which was very scary, horrible. I felt like death. I couldn't even be a functioning human. So agitated, I couldn't even exist in my own skin. And I was pumping through it. You know, I pushed through that whole horrifically horrible, I had dry sockets. I said I wasn't going to go into the whole thing, but I feel like it's a little bit necessary to tell you like what I pumped through. It's like I pumped through all of that, like just to show you how determined I was. Like I will keep my supply up. But we gave them formula because we had to. It was like I had to just rip off that Band-Aid. Like they're going to have their first batch of formula. Let's see how it goes. And they were fine. They tolerated it fine. And then it was like so easy. It was so easy because just mix up a bottle. I realized like kind of like if I don't pump, they're going to be fine. And I'm getting so stressed out about pumping all this time. Like when I could just make them a bottle of formula and they do fine with the formula. Just kind of start using some formula. So I started introducing a little bit of formula, took a little bit of the load off of myself, and then I just kind of got a little bit more relaxed with my pumping schedule. And the thing also about the doctor's appointments too, impossible to pump or breastfeed during that time because like these appointments are for one of my sons. So Graham is at home. Gabriel, I'm with him. So how am I going to breastfeed both of them? Breastfeed Gabe and then pump for the other out in public? Like it became way too burdensome to maintain that. I couldn't maintain it. I tried through all of the obstacles that were thrown at me. Staying with Gabriel in the hospital 24 hours while he was recovering from his hernia surgery, while I'm having opiate withdrawal symptoms, pumping while I'm there. I tried. This is back when I was still trying. I was very, very determined. And after that, I think the appointments just kept rolling. The fact that they had the formula, I knew it worked. It was okay. That's kind of like when I started slowly introducing the formula and slowly backing off of the breastfeeding and the pumping. Mind you, at this point, my boys are now very strong and can last through a breastfeeding session. That was my goal. And now that they're kind of at that point, coincides with the time that I am slowly tapering off my pumping schedule. So my milk supply is diminishing. And I tried to let it go and just not think about it and just become okay with transitioning to formula. I told myself, they had 3 months of breast milk. It's not really what it was about for me in my mind. I think it's wonderful and I feel accomplished that they got 3 months of breast milk, only breast milk. But I did all of that so that I could breastfeed them, have those bonding moments, because I feel like I was robbed of that in their very early days of life when they were in the NICU. And I looked forward to months and months to come of being with my boys and bonding with them that way. So I kind of stopped worrying about it and just pretty much transitioned to all formula. While I was in that tapering off of the pumping situation, and tried to not think about it too much and tried to just told myself it's obvious that the circumstances are it's not that I gave up. It's not that I threw in the towel for no reason because I got lazy and didn't want to put forth the effort, because I put forth a lot of effort and I'm proud of what I have accomplished. So I tried not to get too upset about it. And as I was tapering off of the pumping and breastfeeding, I got to a point where I was just pumping once a day. So I would just pump once at night and then put that breast milk in their morning bottle, and that's all the breast milk that they got. And then I still, because I pumped once a day, I had a little bit of a supply that I could just nurse them here and there if the bottle warmer is taking too long. So that's all I was doing. And I was kind of telling myself okay, I'm tapering off, and eventually, I was kind of just one of these days I'm just going to stop. And that was a very sad thought, and I just never wanted to think about that sad thought until I thought about it. And it was very hard for me because I had this whole realization, I put forth all of this effort. I paid my dues. I got my milk supply up. These stupid doctor's appointments, they're necessary, but man, they get in the way. And they kind of, like I said, sabotage my breastfeeding experience. And could I have done it? Could I have worked a little bit harder and pumped more and breastfed them out in public and done that? But then I just thought, why am I doing? What is my motivation behind breastfeeding them? It's obvious that it was too hard and obvious that I was pushing it too much. I don't know. I started thinking about it and I started getting really frustrated and upset and it was a whole internal struggle, mourning the loss of this whole breastfeeding experience that I had dreamt of, that I worked very hard for. And I feel in the perfect circumstance, it's hard to attain. And in my circumstances, nearly impossible to achieve. But I was just kind of sad about it, mourning the loss of the bonding that I would have with them. Fine, I don't care about spending money on formula. We will do it. It's a perk of breastfeeding that you don't have to spend your money on formula, but I'll buy the formula if I have to. And nutrition, I think both breast milk and formula are very nutritious. So I'm fine with them getting formula. It fills them up. It helps us stay on a schedule. I see the good in it. We have a really nice sleep schedule, feeding schedule now that I think is a lot due to formula. So I am grateful for it, and people can help. I'm not the one, doing all of the feeding, and so people can help me. I'm able to go back to work a little bit, and so I'm able to tolerate a couple hours out in public without dying of discomfort. So there are totally benefits to the formula situation. But I still, if I'm being true to myself, it is like not what I want. You know, if I had it my way, I would not be back at work. I would be at home. I would be chained to my boys or the pump, and I'd be feeding my boys. And that is just the experience that I wanted. And I'm very grateful for my situation now. It's just complicated. Very much an emotional situation. So I started talking to my husband about it and expressing how I feel about, you know, I kind of like said, I think I'm gonna stop. I think I'm gonna stop breastfeeding them. And he was like, that's a great idea, you know, do whatever makes you happy. And then I just started crying because, like, that is really not what I wanted. Like, that is just not what I wanted. I don't want to stop. I just want to breastfeed them, and I wanted that, like, bonding time. So I talked to my mom about it. I talked to my husband, and I just kind of like would talk to myself about it, like weigh the pros and cons and think like, what can I do? What can I do? And I just kind of felt like at a loss, like I don't know what to do. I'm blowing it out of proportion. I don't need to feel this strongly about it. Like, let it go. Like, you're gonna have to stop breastfeeding at some point. But I just didn't think it would have to be this soon. And I guess I just worked so hard to get to this point that I'm really just gonna give up. I'm just gonna throw in the towel now. Like, I don't know. So I actually reached out to another twin mom YouTuber. I'll link her channel in the description. I know your Instagram name, Mama B, something like that, and I don't know if that's your Instagram name and your YouTube name, but her name's Brandy, and she is so sweet. Follow her on Instagram, follow her on YouTube. She's a twin mom. She has 3 kids, a daughter, and then her fraternal twins. And a beautiful mother, beautiful woman, has tons of videos on breastfeeding, pumping for twins, like everything. She just knows so much about feeding. And I watched her videos in the very beginning of my pregnancy just to kind of get mentally prepared for what was to come. And I felt like she might understand, and she might be somebody who could really give me some kind of comfort and maybe some ideas, because I was thinking, you know what, now that I'm realizing it's so hard for me to give up the breastfeeding, I don't have to. Like, could I relactate? I know that's a thing. Like, could I put forth some effort and start it all over again? And long story short, when I talked to her, it was the most encouraging thing, because I felt like I just needed to hear somebody else who knows what I'm talking about, like who's also a twin mom and who's been there. Like, it's hard to talk to people who really don't understand, because you can empathize with the best of them if you don't know what's going on and what the situation is, but it feels different when somebody who is empathizing with you has been through what you're going through. I think that's natural to feel like that. So the way she comforted me was so amazing and godly and loving. And she pretty much just said, like, everything that you're doing is a success. Like, no failures. There are no failures anymore. Everything is just gravy. You know, you did a great job getting them breast milk only for 3 months. Like, I felt myself, and she validated me, like, that was a big accomplishment. And she suggested, you know, just keeping my schedule, because sleep is valuable, the routine is valuable. It's perfectly fine for them to be formula fed, but just like pick a time during the day that I want to start breastfeeding them, do it. Like, just start small and look forward to that bonding time once a day, because I was already pumping once a day. So just change that to breastfeeding them and top them off with some formula afterwards, and try to not let it throw me off my schedule. And then just kind of like little by little, you know, if maybe at the end of a bottle I want to latch them for a little bit, see how they do, you know, my body will start producing enough for what I'm demanding of it. So she just recommended like something so simple, realistic, and a way that I can get that bonding with my boys, but also still keep the routine that we have in place and not upset the fruit basket too much. And such a simple solution, but it's led to so much satisfaction already in this short amount of time since I've tried that. Like, I don't necessarily feel like I need to go back full force exclusively breastfeeding my boys, because it's true, formula is amazing and easy, and it is nice to have help, but I also feel like I can look forward to those bonding moments every day now where I breastfeed them. And I don't really consider it a meal. It's more like a snack, and it's more like an experience where we all three get to be together, and that's really what I wanted. Like, I didn't want to give that up because it's so special, and they're still so little that I want those moments with them. And this way, I don't have to stress so much about the milk supply. I can forget the pump, you know, because I've been there, done that. I pumped to get to this point with my boys. And now I am at a point, thanks to Brandy, that I feel like I can have a nice balance of both. If my milk supply increases a ton, we'll see. But I'm not going to worry so much about it because of all the reasons I already said. We've got a good thing going. And if I am feeling fulfilled, if the boys are happy, that's all that matters. And that's my situation. This is a long video, but it's been a long road. It's been a long journey of pumping, feeding, that it's taken a toll on me, but I am in a place now where I don't feel like I really need to change anything. And for so long, I was like chasing this goal of exclusively breastfed babies that I wouldn't be happy until I reached that goal. And now I really do feel like I'm in a place where, yes, I do mourn the loss of what I had hoped for my breastfeeding experience with my twins. It's not feasible, though. It's not feasible. We still have tons of doctor's appointments. More than once a week, we're having to go to the orthopedic surgeon. It's a half an hour away, you know, to and from, for one of my sons. And that's going to be for 8 to 10 weeks that we have to do that. So just it's just not feasible to maintain that exclusively breastfed situation. So I'm just going to let it go, acknowledge that I wanted that for my life, didn't get it. I got a lot of great times behind me, and I have many great moments ahead of me because of Brandy's simple but such wise encouragement and advice on how to achieve like a good balance and not beat myself up too much about it. Oh my gosh. So anyway, I am done talking about this. My camera even just cut me off because I was talking too much. So if that helped anybody, I am glad. And something I tell myself a lot is to look at myself as an outsider. And I just know that if I were talking to somebody else in my shoes going through the same situation, I would view everything, like Brandy said, as a huge success So if you are going through the same situation, however you manage to feed your kid is a success. As long as your baby or babies are alive and you make it through every single day, props to you, because getting babies fed and to sleep is a huge challenge. So however you manage to do it is beautiful and wonderful and a huge accomplishment, and everyone deserves a big fat pat on the back for it. And at the same time, I also can validate anybody else's feelings out there of, you know, longing for hopes and dreams of an experience that you didn't get. And it's okay to mourn the loss of that, because that's, it's a big deal. So your feelings are valid. You are not alone. There are a lot of us out there going through similar situations, and we will all get through it. And you just need to know that you're doing a great job keeping your babies alive. So that's really my objective with this video. Kind of to complain a little bit, because I feel like I want to complain, but also to give some encouragement to people who might be struggling a little bit too. Anyway, enough of this. I will be back later. Okay. Bye.